there is a lot that needs to be done with students prior to their actual reading of informational or nonfiction texts. And so I pose this question to you, based on our readings in class, what does need to be done? Giving you a minute to glance over those questions. We need to do all of these in order to give our students a quality experience with nonfiction texts. So what does that mean for classroom teachers, school librarians, reading specialists, and all educators alike, K-12? To me, it means we need to flip the traditional reading format that has occurred and is probably still occurring, that a reading assignment is given. In this case, we're talking about nonfiction or informational text. Students independently read a passage, and then the discussion, or the majority of the time, energy, and effort is spent on discussions after the text has been read. And whether or not that's through whole group discussion, small group discussion, worksheets, tests, comprehension checks. And that's not effective based on the research and the reading that we've done. We need to flip that triangle upside down then and do a lot of front loading at the beginning prior to the reading of these nonfiction passages and informational texts. The pre-reading strategies and the building background knowledge, helping students make connections prior to the reading, whether or not it's text to text, text to self, or text to world. Getting students more invested in that reading by giving them a purpose for reading, which will ultimately engage them throughout the process. That's why in the middle there you see the guided active reading, in which our students should be engaged in if the front loading and the pre-reading strategies are effectively completed by the teacher. And then lastly, the reflection on the reading and the discussion and the new findings and learnings. To me, this visual really struck home and was powerful for me as a teacher, and how I dramatically needed to shift my thinking and how I presented text to my students. So, how can you do all of this, flip that triangle upside down, using one strategy? That's the million-dollar question. And honestly, I don't know if there's a one-size-fits-all strategy that can do it all. But what I do want to share with you today is one of my favorite strategies that really impacted my teaching and my students' learning, and I hope it will do the same for you. The strategy that I'm going to share with you today comes from Tony Steed's book, Reality Checks, Teaching Reading Comprehension with Nonfiction, Grades K through 5. And I really do want you to think beyond K through 5 with the application of this strategy, because it can be effectively used in secondary classrooms as well. The strategy I want to share with you comes from a supplement, a PDF document online that Tony has shared, and it is a rethinking of the KWL strategy. And this is straight from Tony's book. With the KWL strategy, you have the column of what I know, then the next column of what I want to know, and what I found out. Okay, KWL, or what I've learned, I should say. And in the first column, as you know, if you have utilized this strategy in your classroom, students just rattle off information that they know about the topic. Okay? And in my experience when I was in an elementary school library, I'll share a real-world application of my first time using this with second graders. We were learning about penguins in the library, and we probably spent a whole 20-25 minutes of students raising their hand and telling me what they knew about penguins. I wrote it on the post-it note, and we had a wall full of what students knew about penguins. And at the end of that 20-minute period, we stood there and looked back at what students knew about penguins, and honestly, they knew it all. According to these second graders, they knew everything about penguins. There was no motivation or incentive for us to read more or learn more about that topic. Also, in looking back at the Post-it notes and the information that the students shared with me, I knew some of it was accurate, but I also knew there was a majority of information on that wall that was not accurate or correct, and it was based on some misconceptions, cartoons, or just some general goofy thoughts that they had about penguins. So my fears were confirmed when I met with those second graders for the second class period, and I wanted to know the second column, the W of the KWL. What do you guys want to know about penguins? And they confirmed what I thought. They thought they knew it all, so they didn't have motivation or incentive to read beyond that point. I really felt stuck, and we continued on, but I really wished I had another way to present this strategy so that the information was more fluid, and also so I had a leg to stand on when I said, yep, that's not correct information, to a second grader who felt like they were experts on penguins. My aha moment was when I read Tony Steed's book, and he talked about rethinking the KWL strategy, and the strategy he came up with and he shares in that book is the RAND strategy, or an acronym for Reading and Analyzing Nonfiction. He shifted the 3 columns of the KWL to 5-column chart. The first one, not just what I know, but that very important addition of the word think. What I think I know. This made the information more flexible and fluid, so that when we had that first class period of what students already know about a topic, it's presented in a manner of, what do you think you know? And then after you do along your list of what students think they know about a topic, then you reread through the Post-it notes that you've added to the chart, and that gives students the purpose and gives them something to look for, so they're engaged during the reading or the listening of your read aloud of the information. And while you're reading, they're listening for whether or not what they thought they know was confirmed. Were they right? Or was it a misconception? Were they wrong? Now, of course, if students were wrong, we don't have a big buzzer, wrong, but this is an opportunity for them to confront those misconceptions and correct them based on what they've learned in the reading. So as you read and go through your nonfiction read aloud, students can see, since the information is on a Post-it note, that that information can continually be moving along. The addition of the new learning column and the RAND strategy is awesome, because that way students aren't just listening for what they thought they knew, but they're also listening for new facts and new ideas that they can add to the chart or to the board. And this simple addition really opens up the doors to more further learning that goes beyond your students' expertise and background knowledge. And the last column is pretty self-explanatory with wonderings. After you read through a book or a website or the nonfiction source of your choice, an article, you will still have Post-it notes left in What I Think I Know that you weren't able to read about, to find out if that information was confirmed or if it was a misconception. So those Post-it notes that are left in What I Think I Know then move to the Wonderings column. This, as a school librarian, is what I really appreciated, because what do you do with those Post-it notes of the information that was not confirmed or proven incorrect? Well, we've read the whole resource on that topic. What do? You find another resource, whether or not it's another nonfiction book, a website, an article, a magazine, and it shows students that not everything you want to learn about a topic is found in just one resource. And then you can talk about different types of resources. And at this point, you can continue the process, or you can send students on a scavenger hunt, so to speak, with a variety of different resources independently, in small groups, or they can do it as homework depending on the grade level, to answer some of those wonderings and to come back together. And this truly becomes a collaborative process, especially if you're modeling this whole group. And just through my description of the comparison of the KWL experience and the RAND strategy, I hope you can conceptualize how effective the RAND strategy can be with students regardless of the age. Now, I mentioned Post-it notes and how the information is fluid. I really wanted to share with you some different ideas on how you can implement this strategy. This is a picture of what I used in my school library, and I also had posters like this made for every single teacher in our building. And I also did continue the use of this strategy when I moved up to the high school library and made posters for high school teachers as well. And that just gives you an example of how versatile this strategy is. This is just a really big poster, which is, if you can see, there's 2 poster boards taped together and then laminated, so the column is rather long. And you have the indicators of each of the columns up on the top. When I worked with primary students, we talked a lot about the word confirmed and misconceptions. The students that I use this with, they chose right or wrong as synonyms for these words, so it made more sense for them. And as you can see here, I have Post-it notes in the confirmed column, a couple in the misconceptions, some new information, and a couple in the wonderings. And this is what the information will look like on your poster when you do it whole group. Now, this process can be a little long because it is so engaging and you are moving through the information slowly. Another way to apply this strategy is cutting up those column headings into laminated pieces of paper, and then you can see I've put magnets on the back. So if you're in a building that has dry erase boards, you know, the old-fashioned dry erase boards, these column headings can be magnetized to the dry erase board, and that way you have an even larger space to work with the information with the Post-it notes as well. And this was just another way. I also had teachers dedicate whole bulletin boards in their classroom to the RAND strategy, and they could then apply it to any topic that they're working on, whether or not it was a single topic or even a whole unit of study in social studies or science or language arts. So here is also a document. There are some downloadable documents that you can find online where you can print out individual sheets of the RAND strategy for your students if you want them to work independently on the RAND strategy with smaller Post-it notes. How can you integrate technology with this strategy in the classroom? I have a couple of sites that I want to highlight here for you. Linoit.com is a website, and Lino is the iPad app in which teachers can create boards for students to post Post-it notes on a topic, and very easily you can utilize this site or application in your classroom for students to engage in the learning utilizing technology. Another site and iPad app that you could use is Padlet. Padlet is very similar in that you create a board and students can collaborate and create Post-it notes that can then be moved across the board. Also, both of these sites allow multimedia to be posted to the boards, pictures, videos, images, and so on.